Hey everyone, it's Alejandro Bedoya here, coming to you live from GEODIS Park here in Nashville. It's the site of our semifinal US Open Cup game that we just played. Unfortunately, we came out on the losing side of things, so this video is a little bit tough for me to make, obviously, but you got to face the music sometimes. The way the game unfolded, the first half, I thought, definitely at Nashville were the better team. They started off on the front foot. And they got off to a 2-0 lead, but I think we definitely showed some character to come back into the game and make it 2-1. And there was a period of time there in the second half where I thought the second goal for us was going to come. Unfortunately, it didn't. We weren't able to draw the game, and Nashville came away with a 3-1 victory. So our chance at lifting a U.S. Open Cup trophy this season came to an end. We fell short, and bitter pill to swallow, of course. But football is football, and you always got another game coming up. So we got to, put this behind us now. We're still in the battle for two other trophies, obviously, in the Supporters Shield race and the ultimate one, MLS Cup. So we got to pick ourselves up, get focused on the next game. But, congratulations to Nashville. Got to give them their credit as well. And hopefully they can win it for the Eastern Conference. So good luck to Nashville and their club and their fans. I'll hand this over now to David and Kling, and see you all guys next week. And let's go Union.
Hello and welcome to the U.S. Soccer Podcast. I'm David Costin. I'm joined by my co-host, the one and only, the World Cup winner, Meghan Klingenberg. What's up, Kling?
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm excited for this show.
Good, me too. I love our shows that we get to do together.
Well, this is the show where every week we bring you in-depth interviews with players and coaches and experts and take you inside the U.S. men's and women's national teams at every level. This episode, we are celebrating the U.S. Open Cup. It is the country's oldest soccer competition. It's got over 100 years of history, Kling, and I really love this tournament. And our co-host Ali Bedoya does as well. He played in the semifinals, sadly did not get the result against Nashville SC, but another great moment for the Philadelphia Union. And we are excited for the second semifinal tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, where Minnesota hosts Austin for a chance at glory.
David, you mentioned how awesome this tournament is. We love it. It's so much fun to watch. But can you tell me why you think it's so magical?
There are so many reasons, but let me start with this. I don't know another sporting event in which I have the chance to play against the best pros in the world. Now, I won't. I'm not good enough at soccer, but it is the only spot where amateurs can play against pros. It is the only competition where professional sports mixes, and with the way this tournament is set up, we just started, actually, 2026 U.S. Open Cup qualifying. There are over 140 different teams in 28 leagues across 29 different states at the amateur level that are playing to get in. So you get the full range of the diversity of the game in the U.S., both geographically and culturally. You get 100 years of history, and you just get to see the wacky and the wild, Kling. And I love when everything's on the line in one game. There is no, here's the standings, here's the future. It's win tonight, you go home, or you move on.
All right, now one of the Cinderella stories of the earlier rounds of this year's Open Cup was the run of the Portland Hearts of Pine. The USL League One side made a run to the third round after knocking out USL Championship team Hartford Athletic. The Hearts have made waves off the field too. Their jersey and their merch in general, I think we can all agree, fire. The tickets have sold so well that they're incredibly hard to get a hold of. I can totally attest to this. My girlfriend and I took a trip up to Maine this summer. We tried to go for a game. We tried to get a ticket. We tried to be in the fan section, but it was sold out. It was a complete bummer.
Yeah, but now that we put that out there, Kling, come on. Everyone wants Kling at their game, so there are going to be tickets being thrown at you. But in the team's first season, Portland has cemented its reputation as one of America's most exciting new soccer towns. Kling and I checked in with the Hearts coach, Bobby Murphy, and forward Jake Keegan as they took us inside the club's first season, their Open Cup run, and explained what it's like to start a new club from scratch. First up, let's talk to Coach Murphy.
I imagine that starting with a blank canvas can feel simultaneously freeing and overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, those are two words that I would use to sum it up. I think, the freedom to not be encumbered by previous regimes or administrations or however you want to call it, or and to have, I think, an ownership with a really clear vision of what they wanted this club to be, was also really important. And I think that helped bring the two of us together, that we agreed on so many things about what they envisioned for this to be. And then I think the real challenge is once you have that freedom, is having the discipline to use that freedom in a way that meets your end goal, right? So you have to be able to articulate what those goals are, what those qualities are you're looking for, what those sort of cultural high points are, and then you have to surround yourself with people that are brave enough to speak truth to power, so to speak, and really keep you going down the road of what you want to be. Listen, like there's guys I trust who are out of jobs, who Preston Burpo, for example, who was the goalkeeper coach at Austin, and he was out of a job, and I brought him in for preseason for 2 weeks just to, it's almost like inventory me, right? Make sure I'm doing what I say I'm doing. Because I can talk myself into anything, you know what I mean? And so, that, things like that are really important, having a staff that believes in the same thing, and we can keep each other in check. And so, I think, yes, freedom, but there's a huge responsibility that comes with that, right? And you want to build something that far outlasts me. And you hope that the qualities that you bring to the club and the culture that you're trying to cultivate is something that, whether I stay or not, is something they want to continue down the road. And what greater gift, to be able to give than something that lasts long beyond my time. So, yeah.
I'm an absolute culture nerd when it comes to teams and creating like the best team, because all of the teams that I've been on where there's a strong culture have been overachievers, have been championship teams, and the ones where the culture just hasn't necessarily lived up to what we want it to be, they have not performed well. So I was wondering, what are Portland's non-negotiables? What are the core values? Do you work with your players to create them, or something that you're bringing to the players and expect them to embrace them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, I'm not a big rules guy, and I'm not a big list maker, right? I think there's broad strokes that if you stay above this line, you're probably going to be okay, right? So we actually have the saying, don't be that guy, right? And everybody knows exactly what I mean. And that means don't be that guy that doesn't help move goals or pick up cones. Don't be that guy that doesn't, and if you think you're going to be that guy, then you probably are, and you probably shouldn't do it. And I think so. But then we talk about gratitude and humility a lot, and really understanding how lucky we are to have the jobs we have, right? I think we would all agree that we have the best jobs in the world, but they're not the easiest jobs, right? People think being a pro player is easy. It's not, right? Showing up in training every day is not easy, especially when you haven't been in the 18 in 6 weeks. That's hard. Adrian had a phrase, right? And I think this sort of sums up what we want to do. Find that guy in the crowd that's wearing, or that guy or girl or whomever that's wearing a replica shirt, right? And if they got one chance to play for the club, one chance, what would they play like? And we have a responsibility to play, act, and behave as if we were that person for that one day, but we have to do it every day, And then the other stuff is just recruiting good people who understand, having really honest discussions in the recruitment process about what we're doing here. And if it's not for you, it's okay. And then 2, I think, is not taking ourselves too seriously, right? It's okay to smile. It's okay to laugh. The work is stressful enough, right? When we get out of here, let's make sure we smile and have a good time. So
I'm interested on that side of things, because normally when you're building your transfer window and what you're going to do, you're building it off a core that exists. And that's not the case here. So I'm curious, do you lean back into a group of people you've already crossed paths with to make sure you have that put together? And then what does the pitch look like about a team that has never existed before?
Yeah, no, I think I think the short answer is yes, Mikey Lopez. I had Mikey when he was 12 years old at the academy I ran in Austin. So, I've known him most of his life.
Kling.
Yeah, for about a week. That's what we teased him about. He said he was there a year and a half. We're waiting on a transcript, but no, but Mikey's someone who embodies everything we want to be, and I've known him since he was a kid, and somebody I could trust. Then as you start to branch out, it's just speaking to other coaches, character references on guys, but then just really having honest discussions. And I think there's no better way to be than honest. This is what we expect. This is how we're going to play. This is what we're going to do. And then I think the Portland sell was an interesting one, right? Because people don't know about Portland in general, right? And then if you're trying to recruit kids from the Caribbean or African-American kids, right? You have them close their eyes and envision Portland, Maine. What do they see? Right? And they invariably saw the same thing. Topsiders, duck boots, and so the issue of like not knowing that we have the second largest per capita East African population in the country, not knowing that Portland itself is very diverse, not knowing that, yes, you will be able to find food from the Caribbean, or you will be able to get your hair cut. You know what I mean? Like little things like that people just kind of, don't take into, I don't know if people take into account, but we took it into account and really assuring, these players that, yeah, this can be a home for you, right? That people will embrace you. And although it seems like you're landing on the moon, you're really not, it's going to be a place that, and to the community's credit, these players have never felt more at home, than they do now. They love it here.
You have a little bit of experience with Portland previous in your life, living near it and coaching near it. But I'm curious, in that setting, did you know it would be a soccer town? Like, did you know it would be smoke and 7,000 fans at every game? Like, when you're pitching this to the players, did you have that in the back of your mind?
I spent a lot of time, when I first got the job in the office with the front office people and keeping tabs on those things. For me, the turning point was the jersey reveal. If you go back on social media and watch 1,800 people cram into a theater for a jersey reveal, and to see U.S. senators attending, to see the diversity in that crowd, the youth, the old, immigrant populations, the new Mainers as they're called, lobster fishermen, whatever, everybody all there together, you're like, holy cow, we've got something here. And then as you started to see the numbers build over the course of time, yeah, that was a huge recruitment thing. Listen, right now we're at 4,000 season tickets, and so, what I sort of, and I gave them Gabe's vision. I used Gabe's words, really talked about the idea of this club being built around the community and really meeting everyone in this community where they're at. And I think the difference for us, right, that I think that Gabe and ownership deserve a lot of credit for, is this was a city looking for a club, not a club that was built and hoping that a community would then follow, right? They had built a community that was ready for a club. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that.
The one part of soccer that was by far my favorite was this community aspect of it. When I lived in the other Portland in Oregon, we played in front of 25,000 fans every game. They had created their own supporters group that was led by supporters, funded by supporters, just local people around town getting together, loving the game, making friends, creating this community around the sport. And it was just so wholesome and beautiful. And I feel like that type of movement is also happening in this other Portland in Maine. And I got to see that a little bit when I traveled up there. People were like, have you been to a game yet? Well, if you haven't, you're not going to get tickets. They're already sold out. Can you just talk about the community aspect a bit and how much it means to this city and how much it means to these players to play in a city like this?
Yeah, I think Portland's always been rated one of the top minor league sports cities in the country. But listen, all the teams that are here aren't theirs. They're either the Red Sox or the Bruins or the Celtics. So this is their own team, right? And I think there's been a really growing soccer fan base that has paralleled that need for Maine's own team. I give the supporters group a ton of credit. I think we're at close to 700 paying dues members. My dad in Dallas being one of them, of the Dirigo Union.
Love that.
Yeah, and so they're fantastic, hugely supportive. And then I think, I think what makes me most excited, humbled, is the club's willingness and the players' willingness to go out and engage people where there needs to be engagement, right? And I'll tell you a couple of stories, right? I took JT and Walter. Walter's from Cape Verde, JT's from Sierra Leone. There's a futsal game that exists that's put on through a nonprofit that helps new Mainers that are in transitional housing. So there were shelters, right? Just to have a sense of normalcy and community. So there's a game where they get to go and I took these guys and they went and played with them, and to see the healing power of just playing futsal can bring, right, to people who are really struggling, but this gives them an hour and a half of peace, once a week. Mikey Lopez went to a school, and there was a Mexican American girl there who was just almost in tears because she hadn't seen somebody that looked like her in a long, long time, and someone that she could speak Spanish with, and someone who was prominent in the community who looked like her, and so, Kennedy Park. If next time you come, you'll have to go to Kennedy Park and play futsal, right? It's this local city icon where pickup games happen. They had a tournament last week, and all of our players went voluntarily for 2 hours to go out and meet with people and referee and guest coach games and just be seen, So I just think, we represent so many different people, right? And I think it's unfair to ask all those different communities to just sort of come to games on Saturdays and get behind us. I think it's important that we come out of our ivory tower or whatever it is and go meet them where they're at, right? I think that's all people want, is acknowledgement and recognition of where they're at this moment in time, and the understanding that everyone's doing the best they can at this moment in time, and to really go out and do those things, whether it's reading to kids in schools, cancer hospitals, whatever. I just think that is, to me, that's as important. If you're gonna have jobs like ours, right? They're the coolest jobs, right? Let's be honest. Like, it's great, right? If you're not gonna do good with it, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? And that means, like, there were 2 kids that just giving tickets or going out and watching these kids play futsal. I do it like once every 2 weeks. I'll just go out for an hour and just hang out with them. If you're not using, like, try and use your power for good, kids. That's what we're trying to do here. And so I think that's to me, that's what a club is, and that's what a club should do.
One of the special things in the sport that I think you mentioned, in Portland, it's unique that it's not a minor league team. It's not connected to other things. The other unique part about soccer is an Open Cup, which just doesn't exist in other sports. And we have seen the power of it across the world. We've seen the history of it here in the U.S., and you all got to participate in it. And I would assume from afar, and what it felt like, at least for all of us watching, one of the cool parts about it was the ability to compete against all of these other regional rivals. And you had, a local amateur squad from Massachusetts in the first round. Then you get Hartford in the second round, which is a team at a higher division, but a team, when else are you going to see Portland, Maine, and Hartford, Connecticut compete? And then you end up with Rhode Island. What was it like when you drew Hartford? What was it like? I believe it was in a temporary stadium because you weren't even ready yet to launch for that opening game. Like, what was the buildup and moment around that experience like, and your Open Cup experience?
Yeah, here, I've been on both sides of those Open Cup moments. I've been at MLS clubs that get turned over, and then I've also, and then I visited Omaha, where we had a run to the quarterfinals and turned over 2 MLS clubs. So, listen, I was fortunate enough to be the head coach of Orlando City at the Mercedes-Benz in front of like 72,000 people one day. It was like the biggest crowd in the world, and that was during the World Cup. I was more nervous for that first Open Cup game here because I knew how important it was to the people. I knew that you only get one chance to make a first impression. You're playing your first game ever. You're favored to win, which is weird. You're not playing at home. You're playing up in Lewiston, 45 minutes away. So you just didn't want to fall flat on your face that first night, And so, and to the players' credit, we didn't. And then you move on and you get a championship club. You get Hartford. Brendan and I have known each other a long time, and that had all the drama of the cup, and and it was exciting, and I think we were in it against Rhode Island. We had 2 moments of madness about 2 minutes apart. Other than that, we were in it. We gave as good as we got for a long period. So, I love the Open Cup. I wish people took it more seriously. I wish there was dedicated days to it, where they could become the focal point of what we're doing here. Because I think how else would someone from wherever know what's going on here in Portland, Maine, except for the Open Cup? I think it's a door into what we're doing, into how many really great soccer communities there are in this country, whether it's Des Moines, where they'll pack the house. Here, there's a whole bunch of them. So yeah, it's all important.
Is there one moment from the Hartford game that you think back on or that pops up? Like when I bring up the game, is there one moment or one experience around it that you think of?
There's two. I mean, there's obviously Jake's goal at the death to tie it up when we were down to 10 men. And that. And then the funny thing about it is, right, is like it's Open Cup. We're in the high school in Lewiston, Maine. People have been standing behind the goal the whole game, and now the referee decides they can't stand behind the goal for penalty kicks. But the referee can't get them moved, and so they asked me to come down and try and move the people away from behind the goal.
What did you do?
I just walked down. I was like, listen, I appreciate it, but I've got a flight. We've got to go to Spokane tomorrow morning. Listen, if you guys could help me out and move so I don't, I'm not late for my flight, I'd really appreciate it. And so they sort of creeped wide enough, I guess, that we could get the penalties done. But yeah, just bizarro type stuff. You just never know.
That's the type of stuff that you do not get in any other space but the Open Cup, One of the other things that I feel like you do not really get to see is when you see these like higher flight teams play against a team that's in a lower tier of the USL MLS kind of system. And I feel like there's something so cool about being the underdog team. And it feels like there's no pressure on you, and we get to see teams absolutely play with their hearts on fire. And can you kind of speak to that feeling within the team and why it makes the Open Cup so special?
Yeah, I think, listen, we all aspire to something, right? And all my players aspire to play at a higher level than they're at now for the most part. And so this is a chance to go improve it, And so I think there's nothing to be afraid of. Go be brave, and go let the chips fall where they may, and so there is a freedom in that. And listen, I've been, we made that run to the quarterfinals at Omaha, and like we had a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck at times, but but you give yourself a chance to be successful, and that's what you have to do. And so I think for those guys, there's nothing to be afraid of. Like just go, just and we'll worry about what happens at the end. But yeah, it's there is a freedom in it for sure, and I've been in those locker rooms, those MLS locker rooms, where all of a sudden it's 0-0 at halftime and you're playing against the USL and you're like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And
right.
Everybody gets a little twitchy, and there's like this inverse proportional ratio of like, belief to like twitchiness, that kind of goes up and down depending. So yeah, it's an exciting thing for sure.
Have you thought yet about what Open Cup will be next year, of just now being in your stadium, now being somewhat established, and of the potential of playing another game against a Hartford or a Rhode Island, or one of the other teams that, comes from a rival city, but now being already set as Portland Hearts of Pine?
Yeah, I think, listen, to be honest, I wouldn't mind if we played all our Open Cup games in Lewiston. I think, listen, like Lewiston is a huge soccer community. There's a huge Somali population that has, great soccer roots in that community. And they were such gracious hosts to us when we proposed the idea of like, can we do this here? And they bent over backwards to make it possible. So I would not be opposed to. I mean, I don't make these decisions, but like Lewiston being our cup home, at least giving them a game.
Starfire.
Yeah, exactly. And the turf's about the same. So
It's a longer
Starfires.
drive, though.
Yeah. So, but something like that. But yeah, I think, but I also think it'd be exciting for Portland. I mean, for whoever it is, Rhode Island, Hartford, the Rebs, whoever, to come into Fitzy and see what that place is like going at full tilt, because it's a fun place to be.
What do you think is the best part about being or going to a Hearts game?
I don't know, because I've never been.
Come on.
But I would think it is the sense that you walk around, because I do walk around. I get there early and I'll go for a walk and say hi to vendors or whatever. I think it's the sense of, and especially if you're new to it, right? You start to realize how invested everyone is in the club themselves, and that this is an all for one type of thing. And I think it's, that we are going to stand, as we say here, stand fast together, and that we're in this players, staff, supporters group, fans together, and you really get that feeling. I think that's the best thing I think you probably get, because you really feel, okay, this isn't just a sporting event. This is us, and I think that's a huge thing.
Last one for you. You've been around the game in the U.S. for a while, and you've been around it all over the country, and it feels like sort of this new development, which is these incredible, strong clubs and atmospheres down the pyramid around the country. I was at the Vermont Green final. You look at Chattanooga. You look at, of course, Union Omaha and what they've built. So many teams. What do you make of sort of the future of soccer in the country and the ability for it to be grown and grown in such a strong way in so many diverse and different areas?
Yeah, I think if you go back to the beginnings of USL, like, what were their strongest markets? Charleston, Rochester. Mm-hmm. I think Richmond. That's Richmond, who's still around. I think, I don't know if flyover is the right word. That soccer was a sort of a flyover sport. That only big cities with large, populations of so and so could support this. I think the game has grown to the point now that these communities are well suited, well prepared to support these clubs in mass, like really, and to really give this a really good go, and I think, I think the key for us is we were run by really, really smart people who've built this thing. But I don't think we have, I think there's lots of really smart people out there who want to do the same thing. And I think you're going to start to see this really start to grow. I think that these communities are going to take a stand and say, we can support a franchise. We can help build this thing. People are going to look at smaller markets for wherever, I don't know how else you want to describe it, through a different lens of like, okay, yeah, these people are dying for it. And so, yeah, it doesn't have to be, St. Louis or Orlando or Miami or whatever, Atlanta. It can be Fort Wayne. It can be Detroit. It can be these smaller places. Not that Detroit's small, but it can be these smaller markets that have the same passion. It's just, demographics have scaled it back a little bit. So I think there's a real opportunity here, with really thoughtful growth, that these can be really vibrant soccer communities with great clubs.
Coach Bobby Murphy of Portland Hearts of Pine there. Next up, we have his star striker and self-proclaimed soccer nomad, Jake Keegan. But first, a quick reminder. This October, it is go time for the U.S. men's national team. On October 10th in Austin, they face fellow World Cup participants Ecuador at Q2 Stadium, where they have never lost, 6 wins and 0 losses, and they are ready to make it 7. It's U.S. pride and the beautiful game live in the heart of Texas with a special celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. So don't miss your shot to experience it all in person. And let's go to our conversation now with Jake. All right, let's start with the beginning of your Portland experience. How did you end up with Hearts of Pine, and how did you end up in Portland?
Yeah, so the end of last season, I was with Northern Colorado Hailstorm last season, and as sometimes happens in the lower leagues of professional soccer, kind of folded. I guess it left the USL League One at least. So I was on the look for a new club, and as Kling, I'm sure, can attest to, as you get to be an older player, it gets to be a little bit harder. I was just kind of looking around, trying to find different options, and got in touch with Bobby here in Portland and made my way here.
Besides the lobster rolls, what attracted you to this place and this project? Because it is a project. This, hasn't had a team before.
Yeah, the main thing for me was, even early last season, we were hearing, oh, Portland, Maine, they have 5,000 season ticket deposits already. There was buzz around the league already, and that was before they had a coach, that before they had any players. So there was definitely buzz around the team. And then I had James Aleppo, who's like the soccer ops guy here, and Patty Langlois, who is one of our center midfielders. I was with them last year at Hailstorm, so there was a connection there already, and it intrigued me. And Portland's only 4 hours from New York, which isn't that close, but in my terms, I've never been anywhere near this close to home. So I guess it feels a little bit like home to me.
I love that.
Yeah. So that was kind of what drew me to it at first.
So you mentioned not being that close to home. You describe yourself online as a nomad. You've lived in Germany, Ireland. You've played for a bunch of USL teams. I believe you've trialed in Israel and Austria as well. It is a life experience. I want to start off the field.
He is so stoked about
I'm very
asking
excited about this.
question.
You seem like a bit of an expert in moving. So do you have any do's and don'ts about moving, the process, the experience, or anything like that?
Okay, well, my situation is very different than
yes.
the average married kids dog moving. So from my perspective, as someone who doesn't have any kids, doesn't have a wife, it's very easy, especially in this profession. Like, they give us housing generally, and you pretty much just move your clothes. I have a CRV, put all the clothes in the back, put any other soccer balls, whatever else I want, and it fits all in one trip. I don't need a U-Haul. I don't need to get dog crates or anything like that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just embracing the new place you're at, and that's kind of what I've tried to and try to get into the culture early. Because my answer is not something that the normal person can really relate to. So I think just getting involved early, go out, meet new people, meet the supporters, meet whoever's in the city, and try your best you can to enjoy it.
Because that was going to be my next question, which is, how do you access places? Like, do you have any steps normally when it's like, okay, I moved to a new city. How do I find community? How do I find people? How do I make it my home?
Yeah, I think from our perspective as players, the clubs generally do a great job in helping us with that, whether it's meet and greets with the supporters, after games, things like that. One thing I really do like to do is also coaching on the side with kids, and that's a great way to, it obviously depends on the community, but here in Portland, like, it's insane the amount of young soccer players there are. And so, yeah, we've done, me and my roommate have done some camps. We've done individual trainings it's called Footwork Academy I'll give it a shameless plug for you there. But yeah, we just enjoy doing it because you meet new people, you meet the supporters, and the kids, like, obviously we don't look at ourselves as big time pros, but these kids do. So they look at us and like we're the same as Messi, which couldn't be further from the truth. But it's great for them, and we get to interact, and it kind of brings us back to our days when we were playing 6, 8, 10-year-old soccer and just playing for the love of the game.
You have played in so many different places and so many different cultures. When you look back at all of the places that you've been, is there one that stands out where you're just like, holy cow, I am shocked by the culture here. I'm shocked by the soccer culture around this team?
Yeah, Portland, I have to say, obviously, and it is the truth. It's not what I expected in terms of Portland, Maine. Being a New Yorker, you don't really have this perception of Portland being soccer crazed, and it absolutely is. So that's the easy answer. But the second one I'll say is when I was playing in Ireland, it was the only time that I've really been in a situation where maybe there's two times, but where the fans would get really on the team for losing or not performing, or so it felt more like you were held accountable for your actions. It was the same when we were winning, we were heroes, but when you're having a bad game, maybe you get booed off the pitch. Even if it's like maybe we tie at home, you're getting booed off the pitch. Whereas in places like Portland and Greenville and places I've lived in the U.S., amazing places in their own right, but they're very, very supportive, whether whether we deserve it or not.
Have you? Oh, sorry, Clay. I was gonna ask. Have you had the classic like butcher shop experience of after a bad game, you're in a town in Ireland and people are mad at you off the field?
Not off the field. I think
Okay.
they're probably they're a little bit nicer in person, but it's more so right after the match. Yeah, definitely. Even like 85th minute, we're not winning. You hear about it. Fans leave early, things like that.
It does feel like there's a different type of supporter culture in Portland where win or lose, people are having an absolute blast. And I want to get into that a little bit later, but right now I want to keep digging into when you were living abroad. When I was abroad, I played in Sweden and a few other places. I was like, oh my God, I'm free. I can be whoever I want to be here. I can let go of everything that I thought I knew about myself back home because I'm living up to the expectations of all these people who already know me and what they expect of me. Did you go through a sort of similar thing? Did you learn anything about yourself when you were living abroad?
Yeah, I think you learn everything because, like you say, there's no familiarity and there's no like, oh, I can just go home to mom and dad, or I can go to my college friends or any of that. So you're thrown into the deep end, and you have to really. There's a lot of weekends, for example, Ireland was really my first full professional season living abroad, and there was weekends where so the game would be on the Friday night, and we'd have a Saturday morning recovery session, and then all the players were scattered around Ireland, and Ireland's a small place, so they'd go home on the weekends, and they would do their whole like go home, see their friends, see their family, and I'd just be sitting at the apartment by myself. Maybe there's a couple guys who live in the area, and it was those moments where it's like, okay, what do I want to do with my free time, because we have so much of it, and how do I want to, am I going to go to the gym, am I going to be professional, am I not, am I going to go out and party, and it's just there's so much time that I think that you have to kind of figure out what your values are and what you want to do both in life and kind of in the game.
Let me ask you this. Is there a thought process of the moving becomes less worth it, or is there one place that you've ever been where you're like, this, it feels like home, and whatever happens on the soccer side, I don't want to leave?
There's been times like that, and it's funny you say that because I've not intentionally done this. This is not, I mean, I wanted to play abroad and I wanted to then come back to the US, but it's kind of just circumstance that's led me to live in 5 different cities in USL markets. I always thought I would be like a one club man, and I really respect the players who have stayed at Greenville now for 7 years. And I'm almost envious in part of me, but part of me is so grateful for the experiences. But yeah, I just think it kind of has happened that way, and you got to take the good with the bad, and that's kind of what I've done.
You had an incredible start to your time in Portland, though. Let's go into the US Open Cup. It is, to me, the best competition in all of soccer because I love soccer in the US. You also have, it's the only sporting structure inside the US where everyone gets to play, everyone, and you get that opportunity. You've played in it now many times, and obviously a special year this year. What does the US Open Cup mean to you?
I love the Open Cup because everything that I wish MLS and the lower leagues, and hopefully USL between the Championship and League One will become that very soon. It's everything that it's not. And playing abroad, you see it. You see the promotion relegation. You see the passion when, like, just an example, like a Wrexham, or like when Leicester City went on their run to reach the higher leagues, or anywhere in Germany, or last year in the Pokal, forgot the club, but it was a third Bundesliga team.
With an American captain?
With an American captain. Yeah, I should know the club. What was the club? Anyway, but yeah, it's just it's an opportunity for people to prove themselves on the higher level and eventually maybe get moves or just give more exposure for the club. So for me, it's everything that we want as players is provided in this Open Cup. And I mean, I love it. I mean, we had some great times in Greenville as well, and obviously in Portland.
One of the most magical parts about it is like these upset wins that we see happening. And I feel like there's something so fun about being the underdog when you're playing an MLS side or a championship side. And you're like, I have no pressure. I have nothing to lose. Can you speak to how that feels as a player?
Yeah, you're playing with house money almost, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just, you're going out there, and obviously if you get smacked 7-0, it's not a good day. But if you lose the game, it's kind of okay, that's what is expected to happen. So all the onus is on the higher division club, and you get to go out there, play freely. And I don't want to say we don't have tactics or anything like that, but a lot of times in these cup games, it's not as structured as maybe a league game, as okay, we're so familiar with this opponent, or one's in a low block, or the games just kind of becomes boring. Like, when you have these types of games, you're allowed to play freely, and it can oftentimes lead to very exciting kind of back and forth transition games.
You got Hartford in the second round, which was your first opportunity as an underdog. Your home stadium's not even ready yet. You haven't even gotten into league play and becoming a real fully fledged team. Like, what was the feeling when you found out the draw, and how does that happen inside of a team? And then what do you remember about the experience going into the game?
Yeah, we played Falanese in the first round, so we took care of business there. So we kind of gave ourselves the platform to do this. And I know these draws are random, but I'm assuming U.S. Soccer wanted us to have a second chance to host, because we're kind of a very new market, and a market with a lot of attention on it. And we had this unbelievable opportunity against Hartford in it was our third ever game, and guys were just so excited for it, and then we were up for the game. And I think the first half, and even the second half, we really created problems for them. And then the extra time was we got a man sent off. It was just one of those games where everything happened. Anything that happened in the penalty shootout, like, the fans couldn't be behind the goal, so the refs were like, Bobby had to come move the fans from behind the goal. It was just everything that could happen in a game did. And it was a very good introduction, I think, for the city of Portland, even though the game was played in Lewiston, just outside of Portland. But it's a good introduction to soccer in the state of Maine.
And you played a huge part in that game. Just take us through the experience of scoring the big goal, and sort of what you remember about the moment, and how it played out from your point of view.
Yeah, it was, like I said, we were down 1-0, and we were also down a man. It was like 100 and whatever 16th minute, so legs were definitely gone for a lot of not for me, I came on a sub, I was fine, but for a lot of players on the field, legs were probably gone. But Evan did a great job. Evan Southern, he kind of had the ball at midfield, and he got on the half turn and played a great ball in behind. And some guys, or some people may think of old legs, I can't make runs in behind, but I don't think that's the case at all. I'm a little biased though. So yeah, we just kind of got in between the two center backs, and yeah, Evan played the ball perfectly, and yeah, the keeper came out. And it was just one of those it was like instinctual type finishes. You just kind of see the goalie, and you just try not to get smashed while also put it in.
You then in the next round play Rhode Island, another sort of New England regional rival. Doesn't go maybe as well as you would have liked it. You get knocked out. What do you think of as you think going forward about the Open Cup, and what a run could look like for your club, and sort of what it could mean to Portland in 2026 or 27 and going forward?
Yeah, I think the next step for the club would be to, well, first probably host at Fitzpatrick, the stadium. I think that would be a great atmosphere in the cup, whether it's against a championship team or an MLS side. But I think the next big step would be to play an MLS team, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the highest level of the game in this country. And whether they play total first teams or not, it's their branding, and it's their club. So we, as third division players, we kind of embrace that opportunity, and I think that's the next step. I think the club is growing off the field in a lot of ways, and I think it's the next step for us as players, both in the USL League One, in the league, and then in the Open Cup, to try to get the results and create special nights for fans. Like when I was playing in Greenville, we hosted Charlotte FC.
Yeah.
So and that was, I think it was their first season, or maybe it was their second season. But yeah, it was a home game, sellout crowd. Charlotte's only an hour away, so they traveled probably 500 fans. It was just an unbelievable game. I mean, we lost in extra time, but it was an unbelievable atmosphere. Something that probably, if you ask Greenville supporters, that's probably one of their favorite games in the 7 years of the club. And the club has won USL League One titles, but probably one of their favorite games is this game we lost against Charlotte FC. So hopefully, I mean, going back to Maine, I think or going back to Portland, that's probably the next step for the club in the Open Cup in 2026.
What do you think it'll feel like to step on your home pitch in front of your soccer mad fan base in Portland in the Open Cup, playing against an MLS side, playing against a championship side? Like, what does that feel like for a player?
It's the games you remember, right? I mean, we've all been there, but like it's just the games when you think back on your career, you're like, oh, that was special, this was special, and in the moment, you're just trying not to let the moment get to you and enjoy it, but also perform at the same time. I think there's a fine line between you want to have a little bit of nerves, a little bit of pressure, but you don't want to let it dictate how you play, and you want to then look back on it in 30 years as like, okay, that was pretty cool.
You've been in, you mentioned Greenville, Northern Colorado, Hailstorm. You've been in a couple different soccer environments in the U.S. It feels like what's happening in Portland is really special. How do you sort of put your finger on the pulse of what it is that people have connected with, and maybe what we're seeing across the leagues, whether it's USL 2, USL League One, W League, Super League, of all of these strong environments and fan bases happening maybe in cities that people hadn't expected?
Yeah, I mean, as a USL nomad, I love it. I mean, I love what's happened in the NWSL as well. Like the crowds that you guys are getting these last probably 3-4 years, incredible. Like I never would have. I don't even know. I don't even know if you would have thought this was going to happen as players. I have no idea, but it's so great. And but yeah, going back to USL, I think these new clubs have, a lot of them anyway, have done a very good job of identifying like what the community wants, who they are. And Gabe, our founder, he had his pulse on Maine soccer and Maine to a T. And I mean, he's a former player, so I think that helped. He's probably one of the better players to ever come out of Maine. He played 1 year in the USL as well. So he had a pulse on it. He had this vision in 2020, right? Or probably 2020, whatever. It grew slowly. Like it wasn't even Portland Hearts of Pine at first. I think it was Forest City or whatever the name was. So then he slowly he had the branding, he had some merch, and it was a slow build. But he could, I think, if you ask him, he knew that something great was kind of brewing. And yeah, I think the one big thing about Portland and Maine as a whole is they identify as Mainers. Whereas if you go to New York, if you go to California, there's just so much going on. There's other things. So anytime you can, and our jerseys have just Maine across the chest. So it's like, this is who we are. We're Mainers, I guess. We represent Mainers anyway. So I think that's probably a big thing. But yeah, it's tough to put your finger on it because like you see other great markets and you're like, oh, why didn't this work? Why did this one work? But yeah, I think for Maine, it's just people love soccer here. They identify as Mainers, and the club has done, Gabe in particular, and Gabe knows how to hire the right people, the social media, excellent. Like I don't have enough good things to say about this club in terms of the off the field. Like we're blown away as players how they just seem to get everything right in terms of the merch, in terms of merch. Here you go.
Yeah.
Merch. In terms of the merch, in terms of the social media stuff, in terms of how they branded the club, it's great. And I think the onus now is on us as players to be as good as them. I think they've raised the bar to a very high level, and we need to match it.
I'm trying to get my own merch, so if you could give me the hookup, that would be really great. And I think thanks.
You got it. Send me an address. We got you.
Yes. I've been working for this. I think maybe I just have one more question, and there's just been so much success, as you were just talking about, around this team, the Hearts of Pine. It's been so fun to see, and I think the people that have been a part of it have been having an absolute blast. But what does this success of the Pines mean for the future of U.S. soccer elsewhere?
Ooh, you're getting deep now. You're really activating. Okay, so I think it means that. So I'm going to take your answer very literally. I think the valuation now goes up for new franchises, which I don't know if it's good or bad how they do it, but it's how they do it. But the intrigue's also there. So all these new cities that maybe we're too small of a city, maybe we're not the right market. I think they now see a path to profitability and long-term sustainability. And it's not just Portland, but there's more and more clubs now that, as an owner, it's not just, okay, I'm bleeding money.
Mm-hmm.
It's, okay, this is an opportunity for me to do something awesome in my home city or wherever it is. Be an owner, which obviously is a cool thing. But then also now this is a business and I can make money on merch. I can sell tickets. I can do this. So I think it's a blueprint. to plenty of cities around the country. I think even next year, probably Boise would fit into that mold of like they've already have 5,000 season tickets.
Yeah.
So like there's just more and more cities that are coming into the league, and that's not taken away from the clubs that started the league, like the Greenbills. So there's just more and more markets, and that's the goal, right? Because I mean, it's such a big country. So hopefully we can get enough markets where the travel isn't too crazy, and we can kind of regionalize it a little bit and make it even more sustainable for these owners out there.
We're going to hold you on after this, so we're going to do our insider segment, Red Card or Play On. So anyone who's not an insider, you can subscribe, and that gets you access to our special insider segments. But before I let you go, you mentioned the excitement around what's being built. Just for someone who's been in the game for a while, how much fun are you having? Like how much are you enjoying this year, this experience of being on the inaugural Portland Hearts of Pine team?
Yeah, it's something I definitely don't take for granted, because I've seen like all the dips of like and the peaks of all these different clubs. So I definitely don't take it for granted how awesome this is. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't be doing this at almost 35 if I didn't enjoy it. It's just
Keep going. Keep going.
It's just something I enjoy doing, and I want to keep doing it as long as these coaches will allow me to. We'll see how long that is. But
Come on, Jake, keep going. Do it for the rest of us upper 30s.
Yeah, I'm trying my best. It's getting a little harder though, I can't lie to you.
Well, I'm sure all the fans at Fitzpatrick Stadium will want to see you do it as long as possible as well. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on the U.S. Soccer Podcast. And hopefully when you score the game winner and or the game equalizer in the late round, early rounds next year, we'll have you on to do it again.
Oh, perfect. I'll have to do that then.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? And O'Reilly Auto Parts is right around the corner. O'Reilly Auto Parts can help take the guesswork out of your vehicle's check engine, ABS, or maintenance light with O'Reilly Veriscan, a free service that only takes a couple of minutes to complete. You'll receive a free, easy-to-read report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans that have been verified by ASE-certified master technicians. O'Reilly Veriscan can identify the most likely problem with just one scan. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts can then recommend the parts and tools that you need to do the repair right the first time. And if you're not comfortable doing the repair yourself, they can recommend a local shop for you. Don't ignore check engine, ABS, or maintenance light. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today, a free service exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Well, we are only one step from the 2025 U.S. Open Cup final, and we are waiting to see who will claim the last spot. You can watch Minnesota United's match against Austin FC tonight, live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Paramount Plus and CBS Sports Network. So, Kling, we talked to Bobby and Jake. It was so much fun. They are building something really special up in Portland. And I wonder for you went up there. You've obviously been around to some of the best soccer towns in America. What makes a great one?
To me, the most important thing about soccer is community. It's my palm in the background giving his opinion as well. But I do think it's important that people connect, especially in times like this, especially where people feel so divided. It's important to find something that makes us all come together. And that's what they got going on in Portland.
Yeah, and it is something genuine. I think something we learned. We talked with the coaches and sporting directors of Hickory and Vermont Green, two teams that have won at a lower division and have thousands of fans coming out. And what they are doing is different from each other because they're true to where they are. And as you mentioned, in Portland, it feels true to that community and hence the connection that has been created. It is something only soccer is capable of doing. You saw it in Portland, Oregon in your career, and we're seeing it in so many different places. Now, I thought that was a pretty good question from me, but you, if you want to, can ask questions yourself. You can ask the pros, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This is where you get to ask the questions for me, for Kling, or for Ollie, and we'll get back to you and answer them on the show. Let's start with one for myself. We have one from Jason in Chi-Town in Chicago who says, which young player or team do you think is flying under the radar right now? I love this question because I love giving an opportunity to spread the spotlight on some of the young phenoms that are pushing through as players. I think there is something so special about watching a young player who is brash and confident step out on a field and do what they do best. I think on the men's side of things, you've got Xavier Gozo, who is 18 years old, crushing it right now with Real Salt Lake. He has started 18 games in Major League Soccer, has scored 3 goals, just scored the other day, and his middle name is Didier because his dad is from Ivory Coast and named him after Didier Drogba. You cannot be any more blessed, Kling, to be a true soccer phenom than to have that as your middle name.
Truly. I mean, there is just one moment of Drogba's career that I remember so vividly, and it was the Champions League run for Chelsea, where they were like not thought that they were going to win, and then literally their get out of jail free card was Didier Drogba, and they would like just play it over the top to him, and he would take on like 6 defenders and score, and it was all counterattacks. All they did was defend the entire game, and then this guy comes through and is like, boom.
Yeah, he was special. He is special. On the women's side, by the way, Riley Jackson has locked down the spot as the full-time starter at defensive midfield for the North Carolina Courage at just 19 years old. Sometimes we get desensitized, right? You see Claire Hutton do what she does week in and week out, and you think it's easy. It is not. I know you can attest to that even better than me, and it is credible to watch the young generation of players who are showing such professionalism at such a young age, and it's why I think we saw such success post-Olympics when Emma Hayes was able to rotate the team because there is so much talent coming through.
There's so much more talent than people ever give the women's national team credit for, and that is a huge statement. I remember people saying to me, oh, your generation will never win another World Cup. There's just not good enough talent coming through. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. We are going to be just fine. I've seen the players that are coming in. I've played against them in practice because we call them up to give them trials, to give them reps, to give them opportunities, to get looks, and to help us train. And honestly, I never thought that there was ever going to be a doubt that we were going to continue to have an incredible national team and youth system.
But it is special to win something. So let's go to our question from Sammy in Nashville for you, which is, you are part of one of the most iconic U.S. women's national team squads ever. What made that team so special, and how do you maintain chemistry across such a competitive environment?
Okay, this might be controversial, but I don't think that we necessarily had chemistry up until the team was named. I feel like it was all out competitive fire for the 3 years leading up to the roster selection. And then once the roster selection was made, everybody's like, all right, let's come together. We have this common goal. And we're always working together when it came to games, when it came to like traveling and each of us pulling our weight and things like that. But at the same time, we're all competing for a spot. It was one of the most competitive environments I've ever been in. So actually having your group be able to put aside that competitiveness with each other and then turn it all around on the other teams was basically one of the scariest things like that I don't even think people realized was coming for them. And it was pretty cool to be a part of.
It's like everyone's against each other, and then all of a sudden you take all that energy and you turn it on one team on the other side, and they're like, wait, we just got here. We didn't do anything wrong, we swear.
Exactly. But it's also not just like Megan's competitive nature, Kelly's competitive nature. It's like putting it all together, but it kind of multiplies as it's put together. So it's not just like a 1 + 1 + 1 sort of situation. It's kind of an exponential competitive fire situation. So sometimes I felt bad for people who are on the other end of that.
I can only imagine the pregame speeches in the locker rooms as you got ready for these. We appreciate the questions from Jason and Sammy. And if you want to be a part of this going forward, if you want to ask the pros, you can drop our partners at Westwood One a DM on Instagram at Westwood One Sports. And we'll see you next week on the U.S. Soccer Podcast. And don't forget to follow us so you never miss an episode.